I spent 8 days in absolute darkness alone in the room, and in this video I want to share my 3 main takeaways. A lot of people have asked me like how was the experience, so it only made sense for me to record a video. And what was also interesting was that quite some people told me, "Oh, I could never do this sounds horrifying," which is kind of interesting, right? Because we are with ourselves in the darkness. It shouldn't be that scary. And I think there's something to explore if we feel that being alone with our own thoughts makes us nervous and we feel scared about that. And I talk more about that later, why I think doing something like a darkness retreat can be a really great way to find out what's happening. And before I dive in, I also want to just note that every experience is different. It's just the same with psychedelics. If you drink ayahuasca, every experience is different for each person. But then also, if I would do another darkness retreat, it would very likely be also a different experience. And if you read different reports of people, some are like crazy wild, some are different. So before I talk about the 3 main takeaways, I want to first share about some practical things, like how did that work, what about food and taking showers and all of that, because I always get those questions. So let's start with that. And then I'm going to share the 3 main takeaways, and then at the end also the challenge that I had, or like a disappointment that I had to deal with, basically. Okay, so the setup. So I did this in a place in the Black Forest in Germany. And there you basically book it like a hotel. So you can decide how many nights you want to do. You can do 3 nights, 8 nights, 21, whatever, 30 over a month, however long you want. The price is like roughly 130 euros per night, and you only get the room. So everything else, like food, like kind of therapy, coaching sessions with the woman who facilitates, they all come on top. You can book massages, like she has a whole range of things that you can book. In terms of food. So I knew that, and so I decided I'm gonna bring some food at least. Some nuts, I brought a bunch of bananas that were very green when I went into the darkness, because I wanted to start fasting. And I didn't know how long I would fast, but I thought, the first few days. I brought some baby food that I could eat. I brought 3 apples, I think 3 carrots, and some boiled eggs, which I wasn't supposed to bring. I didn't really get the memo that this was a vegan house. So when she saw the eggs, she's like, "Oh, you didn't know it was a vegan house?" I was like, "No." And she's like, "Well, okay, now they're here, you can keep them." But she would recommend not to eat them. And I have some photos here of the room. Very small room, very basic, but also more than enough for being in it in complete darkness. Had a small bathroom attached with a shower, toilet, and then a sink where I could brush my teeth in the room. There was a yoga mat, and I put the yoga mat in the middle of the room because it gave me a way to orient myself. Because whenever I would feel the yoga mat under my feet, I knew, okay, I'm in the middle of the room. Not necessarily in which direction I'm facing, but it did help a lot. Then there was also, right next to the bed, this, she called it the Om box. It was like a speaker, but you could only plug it in and it would start immediately looping an Om sound with a little bit of like some background music. And you could make it louder, and that was it. So that was the only basically external sounds that I could listen to, besides the audio recorder that I brought, which I could use to record things, but also then technically to re-listen to some of the audios. Yeah, and then another question that I got a lot is like, well, what did you do the whole time? So I would say the majority of the time I spent laying down, either sleeping or just being in my own mind. But I also did some movements. I did like some, kind of yoga, some workout, push-ups and so on. I used a meditation cushion that was also there to meditate, like sitting in an upright position. You could also say I meditated at times. Meditation is a big term. Just laying down. Sometimes I would just kind of walk around back and forth to just move my body a little bit and not lay the whole time. And then there was eating, taking showers, which I did, I think, every other day. And I did some breath work. And then what I did most of the time happened inside of my own mind. So let me see. That leads me into the main 3 takeaways. So I'm a person in general that lives more in the future than in the past. Meaning I don't really go back into my memories a lot. I don't have like resentment. If I'm not in the present moment, then I'm usually envisioning the future. So the first main takeaway was like a whole new level of clarity around my vision. I already had a lot of clarity on my vision, and like the lifestyle I want to create, on my coaching business. Like I have a lot of clarity really always because I do create that clarity. But in there, in the complete darkness with no distractions at all, I had a lot of time to go into the vision and really visualize it and stay in there and add more details. And the reason why this is really valuable is the more we have clarity on our vision and we can really it's more tangible in our mind, the more energy it can create, the more it can pull us forward, right? If we're like, oh, I don't really know what I want in life, well, it's hard to get activated and to move forward. This is also why I do that with all of my clients, to really create a powerful, inspiring vision for them so that there's energy and motivation to move towards that. So that was the first takeaway. And I could talk for 30 minutes or more just about the vision, but I'm going to keep this somewhat high level, this video. And I just remembered another practical piece is, so the room is completely dark. There's a hallway that is also completely dark. If I wanted to order something to eat, I would write it on a piece of paper that she gave me. It was on the desk there, and then put it outside of the room on a little table that was there. And she would come, I don't know, I think 3 times a day and basically check. And if there's a piece of paper that says a big salad, then she would bring it, or make it and bring it and just put it there. And then I can go outside in the hallway and see if it's already done. I mean, I would hear it usually, and then I have the salad. So there was not really any interaction. She also didn't check in. She said she did that in the past, but then, she might interrupt someone being in their bliss in the darkness. So there was no checking in. And the first 4 days, I didn't order anything. So I had no interaction really with anyone. I did start fasting, and I came in on a Saturday afternoon. So then basically the first night came pretty quickly, and I did sleep, I think, quite normally during that night. And then the first day I fasted, but I did feel, the hunger and a little bit lower and on just energy. But I said, okay, I'm gonna at least do the first day. Then I had a second night. And then at some point during the second day, I think probably in the afternoon, I started eating. Because I was like, I don't really need to make this, harder than it is. Not that it was hard at that point, but I just I also couldn't really prepare for the fasting. Usually I do an enema so that my my gut is completely empty, and that helps with the hunger, but I didn't have the space or the time to do it there, so I decided to eat again. And another thing that is connected maybe more to the practical that I forgot to mention is, how was it with the day and night rhythm, and did you know what day or what time it was? I knew more or less. I would say kind of unfortunately, it would have been super interesting to have an experience where I would not know at all. And the reason why I did know was the sounds, right? So it was in the Black Forest. It was generally super silent, but there was a guy across the hallway from me, and so he had booked conversations, like sessions with the woman every day. So I would hear that. I would hear when she brought food, which didn't happen during the night. And there were also just some outside noises that I would hear. Yeah, so I knew roughly if it's night, if it's day, and then I would guess, well, okay, it was silent for a long time now. Now I hear the first noises. In the morning I would hear the chicken. So I would know, okay, it was morning. Okay, I took a little break. Also, the sun was getting super bright earlier. Moving on with the second main takeaway, which is more self-love. I have fallen more in love with myself, and I mean, it's beautiful. And I think a lot of people don't understand how important it is, because it sounds like, oh yeah, you love yourself, like whatever. But it's really a superpower. No matter if you run a business, you want to, be an influencer, produce content, the more we love ourselves, the more we can put ourselves out there, and other people's judgments don't really bother us. We can, if we run a business or any kind of project that we want, anything that we want to create where we need help, or it goes faster when we ask for help, the more we love ourselves, the more we can ask for what we want. And if we get rejected, don't get it, doesn't matter, right? We are so afraid of rejection because what it does to us, like internally. Not because someone is like, hey, I don't really want to give you this thing, or I don't want to buy your stuff. Like on the surface, like, what's the big deal? But if we make it about ourselves and like, oh, that means I'm not good enough, then it becomes super scary. And on the flip side, like a deeper self-love is, the solution, you could say, for that. And I think I wasn't that scared or nervous to go into the darkness, because I already had like a really high base level of self-love. I enjoy being with myself. I enjoy being in my own thoughts. But there was also a process that I used, with my coaching clients as well, which is like something that you can actively do to start loving yourself more, right? Which is basically a process to free ourselves from negative judgments that we hold about ourselves. And so I'm not going to describe the process here. I'm going to do this in a future video. But I had time to do it. So I went through that process multiple times on multiple days. And yeah, it just made me feel more powerful, more loving, more free. So that was another main takeaway. And then takeaway number 3 was a very clear downloads on a business I want to create, which it was in me since like many years. And it has to do with reprogramming our subconsciousness. And like many years ago, I studied Dr. Joe Dispenza's work extensively. I read all of his books. I did his meditations, and I built an online course. I created an online course that used a specific tool that I call a creation movie, which is basically a visual representation of your vision. A little bit like a vision board, but in a film, short movie, where you can use music to get yourself into an emotional state, like a higher frequency, right? And okay, I gotta be careful that I don't get super bright again. And so now we live in a time where we have AI image generation, AI video generation, AI music generation. So it's the perfect time to get clarity on what we want in life, and then to create kind of like multimedia assets that help us remember it, the vision that we want to create, but also who we want to become, right? And this is the deeper layer of the transformative work. And so I had like days and days in the darkness where I fleshed out that business, and yeah, there's so many different offers in that ecosystem that all make sense together, from like transformative retreats where we use kind of like rituals to step into a new identity that we have created before in the process, then the video elements, the audio elements. For example, there's a window right after we wake up where we have a lot of alpha brain waves, and we are very suggestible. Let me pause here real quick. Okay. As much as I love sunlight for recording videos, sometimes that's just the easier setup. So right after we wake up and before we fall asleep, we're in this hypnagogic state, and we are very suggestible for new beliefs, ideas to get integrated into our subconscious mind. So listening to audios that remind us of who we want to become during that time is very powerful. And so creating those audios and then sending them to the customers, the clients, on a MP3 player, so they can listen to them without having to be with their phone, which I 100% would never incentivize that anyone sleeps with their phone next to their bed. So it has to be an extra device, which I think makes it like even cooler to someone to buy something and then have like a physical device that represents their vision and who they want to become. So yeah, I mapped out the whole business. I'm super excited about it. I'm looking for a co-founder because this is not something I want to do on my own. And it also goes perfectly hand in hand with the coaching work that I do. So with all of my clients, I talk about their vision anyway. And then they have something that they can kind of integrate into their habits, their day-to-day, their morning rituals and so on. And the other way around as well, if someone wants to have a creation movie, like a vision movie basically, then they can get that. And if they then want support with executing towards that vision, right? This is where my one-on-one coaching comes in. So yeah, in the darkness, it just all made perfect sense to me. And yeah, if you're seeing this and you know anyone who's like a technical co-founder who knows how to use AI to generate images, to generate videos, maybe has some experience with video editing, then yeah, reach out. This is one of my intentions now for 2026 to move that project forward. Yeah, so those were the three main takeaways that I had in that one darkness experience. The clarity on my own vision, a deeper level of self-love, and this business that doesn't have a name yet, but is something around advanced visioning technologies. Like that would be the tagline. Yeah, and then a few additional things I want to share. One piece that makes this super valuable, I believe, it would like the future will tell, is I now have a lived experience, a memory that I can go back to where I had like total clarity and a lot of peace, no distractions, and I realized that because a few years ago I did a 5-MeO DMT experience, which actually I think is the most watched YouTube video on my channel, small channel, because people are interested in how that experience was. And when I now meditate, and in the meditation, I want to be in a state of absolute nothingness, then it's so much easier for me to get myself into that state, because I've been in that state in this Bufo experience, right? So I literally felt how it feels like to have no body, no time, no location, to just be pure awareness in the void, in absolute nothingness. So now in my normal state, when I meditate, I can access this so much easier. And I think with the darkness, it can be very similar, because I woke up, went to bed, woke up, it was just darkness. It was just me and my own thoughts, and with a lot of peace and clarity. And what I want to try to integrate now, this is like literally, what is it, Tuesday today, the first week where I'm like back to my normal life after the darkness, which ended 2 weeks ago. So we'll see. I'll report on that. And another little mini takeaway before I go into the challenging part was I experimented with a certain form of breath work, or it's more a breath hold. And that breath hold made me so high. Like I saw lights. It doesn't really last that long. Like there's a breath hold, and then it starts, and then I release, and it fades away, I don't know, in maybe 20-30 seconds or so. I even had really clear auditorial hallucinations, where I would like release the breath hold, lay on the mattress, and I heard like almost like a conversation fading away. Or sometimes I thought like it sounds like the echo of my thoughts. It was really weird. So that's also something I want to integrate more into my life now that I've had 8 days to experiment with it, and different like positions and different durations of breath hold, and it's just like, had time to connect with my body and use this process. So now the challenging part, or the disappointing part. I went into the darkness expecting, without a doubt really, that after a few days there will be this natural DMT release that I heard about from different people. So after day 3 or 4, they say usually the pineal gland in the middle of our brain somewhere, I think it metabolizes all the melatonin that gets accumulated into DMT. Right? If you Google it, like science is not super clear on it, but it matches. It would make sense, because people can have crazy experiences where they're literally high on DMT in the darkness without any external consumption of DMT. And so day 4 passes, nothing really happens. Like, it might take a little longer. Day 5 passes, and then on day 6, as I was ordering a salad, wrote on a piece of paper, I also wrote like, hey, I don't know what's happening with my pineal gland, but it looks exactly the same as on day 1, really. So I put this out, and then she came, and she knocked on the door, and we had a little conversation about that. And she was saying like, by now something should happen. And but she's like, it can still happen. Sometimes it comes more towards the end, but then it starts super quickly. And there's also this Pandora light, which is this special light where you sit in front of the light, you close your eyes, and it has a really high frequency. There's different programs with different frequencies. There's one to activate the pineal gland. So she suggested that I book that. It'll cost extra money, because they're gonna help activate it. I'm like, okay, sure. Like I'm already here now since 6 days. Like if that can make a difference, let's do it. And then she said, okay, cool. Then I'm gonna come later in the evening because it's good you can relax afterwards. Like, sounds good. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And then she's gone. And then at first I'm like, wow, this is cool. Maybe this will really help. And then I was like, yeah, but I don't really know. I have like some doubts coming up. And then I was also thinking, why did she say we do it late in the evening? Like, first, I don't really know what time it is. But also, isn't it better to do it earlier so that if it actually does activate something, there's more time afterwards? And so then I start like spiraling, and I get just upset with her, and I get upset with myself a little bit because there was a preparation course that I would also had to buy on top, for 100 euros, but I just paid half the payment, 500 euros, and then I get this email like, hey, you want a preparation course for 100 euros? Like, not really. I just spent 500. I don't want to spend another 100. And why would I need a preparation? It's just darkness. I feel good about it. I never heard from anyone else about any special preparation, so I just ignored it. And but then I was like, yeah, maybe there was some good information that would have helped to prepare the pineal gland. For example, like not using toothpaste with fluoride in it. I did some other super short course from her, but only like a week before, where she said like you can drink golden milk every day, like with fresh ginger and fresh curcuma. That can help detox the pineal gland. I think it was a few other things. And I was just upset because if there's information that can help the person in the darkness to have a more powerful experience, like why would you put that behind a paywall? Like just write it in the email. So that, and it took like, I don't know, 5 hours or so until she came back, and I was just like sitting there and like being upset, and then I felt disappointed, and like I'm gonna tell my friends about it, and it's gonna be like, well, I didn't have a enlightenment experience with like full on trippy psychedelic visuals and so on. And then she came, we did the session, doing the light session. I mean, like there's like patterns that I saw in a way because the frequency is so high that like, yeah, it's pretty interesting. It can be very powerful. This one was like, it was fine, like 20 minutes or so. And then afterwards, nothing really changed. I did have a sense, not always, but sometimes, that there's a light source behind me, and I see the room, or I see like the bathroom where I am, which I didn't really see it. It was completely dark, but the brain kind of like mapped it out, projected it into the darkness. That was cool, but it was not DMT release. And she also said like that you would notice. It would be like the lights would go on, and so I was disappointed about that a little bit. I felt it, and I went through it, and then I was also like very accepting and trusting that the experience was exactly the way it was supposed to be for me at that time. But yeah, you will hear other stories of someone being like only 4 days in the darkness, having like godlike awakenings, experiences, and like melting into everything, dissolving their ego completely. That didn't happen for me. So lastly, would I do it again? Yes, I would, absolutely. I would do it in a different place. I would maybe do it together with someone. I could do it with my wife together. We could be in the darkness together. That could be interesting and fun. If I'm optimizing for like the DMT release, then maybe it's not necessary to have zero input. Maybe there can be, certain guided meditations or like other audios or an audio book. I don't know. This is just like a big question mark. Maybe there's good reasons not to do that. I might also do it at home at some point. I have like now a really good blindfold, and I can hear like on the windows probably buy some special thing to block out the light completely. So that could be an interesting option as well. And then I think I forgot to mention that if I wanted to get fresh air in the darkness, I would have to open the window and then light would come in. So before I would do that, I would put on the blindfold and then open the window for a few minutes. And because my senses were heightened, like the smell of the fresh air in the forest there, oh my God, that was so amazing. This was another thing that she didn't explain properly. If you stand on an open window and it's light out, sun is shining, even if you have a blindfold on, the skin still absorbs light, and that changes the melatonin production and so on. So I felt like she just missed to tell me a crucial piece of information. Yeah, so now you know, in case you ever do a darkness retreat and they don't tell you that, be mindful if you have to open a window to let in fresh air, to kind of like go to the side. She said at the end, I told her that, oh, it doesn't make a big difference, but like, who knows? It does make a difference. So I think better to optimize so that we have the highest chances of experiencing that, right? And at the same time, yes, everything is great the way it is and unfolded in the perfect way. That's also a useful perspective to not be holding on to any resentment. Thank you for watching. If you are interested in getting your own life to the next stage, getting more clarity on your vision, and you want support on that, then you can find my contact information down below. This is what I do for a living. So yeah, feel free to reach out and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace. Hi again. So as I was editing this video, I realized that I completely forgot to share about the part where I went back into the light. I recorded it with the phone, or like the woman, the facilitator, she set up my phone for me. And that was actually the most intense part of the whole journey. It was much more intense than I expected. I'm not going to share the whole piece here. I'm going to do that on Instagram. So if you want to know how that part was, yeah, then you can go check it out there. I'm going to pin it at the top of my profile. What I will say is it would make a lot of sense to have some extra time at the end of the retreat, right? Maybe an extra day, like really give yourself time to get used to the light again. At least for me, it was like, yeah, I really underestimated how intense that would be. So I'm gonna leave it at that, and yeah, talk soon. Peace.